One of the big beliefs that we have is that you're supposed to find the reason for being here. Now, to me, that is the biggest FU to God or the universe or anything else, because I just want you to know if you're here, there already is a reason for you being here. It's not something you egoically find or egoically create. In other words, the reason is that you're here. You were supposed to be here. And humans do this thing where they go, it's up to me to find my purpose. And it's like, God's like, you're here. I created you. You're in purpose right now. And then we're like, no, it's when I do this thing. And we create this extra pressure that we internalize as what I'm supposed to do. And this even shows up when we're feeling depressed or suicidal. And we're like, what's the purpose of being here? But the underlying problem with that question is, there's a belief that you're supposed to find some egoic answer to the purpose of you being here. What a horrible thing to do to yourself, because you're already here. Now, if you could just surrender that there's some extra second layer of pressure on you to have a reason and a purpose beyond the fact that you exist, you're already ignoring the fact that you're here, and that is the purpose of you being here. So I'm not saying don't have goals and plans and things that call to you, but there is this underlying pressure, and it's almost like we have this inner warden that's here that says, I got to find another reason to be here that is like, what's my calling? What's my thing? And there is a calling, but that just exists within your acceptance of you being here, and that your being here is enough of a reason. Your being here is a reason. And so what we do is we don't remember that. We don't remember, holy shit, I'm just here. So obviously there's a reason in that I'm here, not a reason that you egoically find is suddenly the answer to your life. But there must be a reason, meaning like not for me to define, but that I'm here there was already a reason for me to be here, right? And that's that I'm here. And then the ego goes, well, that's not a thing that I can tangibly grab or define. And the ego, which really is the argument of truth, that's all the ego is the argument with truth. Right? The ego does not like truth. It does not like what is. It does not like what's here. It does not like anything. And its existence is literally based on the fact that it's here to stop truth. And that it's this center line that everything revolves around. The ego goes, nope, it's about me, and I'm here to achieve over here, or I'm here to make the world the way I see it. And there's all these constructs to the ego that says it's about me as a separate self, and it's about how I see the world, and it's about what I believe everyone's supposed to become. And it's all these extra assignments that the ego creates. And the ego doesn't like truth. The ego doesn't like forgiveness. The ego doesn't like apologies. The ego doesn't like vulnerability. The ego doesn't like humility. The ego doesn't like anything like that, because they would kill the ego, right? So when you start to realize it's enough that you're here, that is the purpose. And the purpose is what is unfolding through you and what you are. And you don't need anything definable. Understand it's a fact you're supposed to be here. And you don't need to add a second layer of self-definition, because the reason people get depressed, one of them is, I don't understand why I'm here. And the ego has decided that why you're here needs to be something that the ego understands. And the ego doesn't need to understand shit. No one's really inviting the ego. No one's asking the ego to come up with this. In other words, you're here. So when the ego goes, it's up to me to figure out why I'm here, then you're creating the second, much smaller thing that you think is the bigger thing. Finally, I found my purpose. But you're really shrinking everything down into this idea that says, now I understand why I'm here. But then if that falls apart, you go, now I don't understand, and people get depressed and suicidal. Can you tell me, like, other than what we know of, what's the purpose of a bird? It's to do what a bird does. It's not like the bird is not enough unless it figures out how to write a good book, or that it's here to impact a bunch of other birds. Like, are we sitting here going, we should kill all the birds because they don't know their purpose? No, you're flying and you're tweeting and you're birding. That's your job. That's your existence. It's not up to us to give it a second bizarre assignment and say, you're here to find your purpose. Don't waste your life, bird. It's just like, no, that's adding layers of pressure. That's adding pressure on top of the fact you exist. So when you start to finally have moments like, I don't understand why I'm here, thank God, we're finally getting to you. Like make that a good thing, because really, I don't either. And the best speakers in the world or the best actors or whatever really don't know why. And some people grab some egoic tangible thing and maybe fill that. But then if that gets filled, there's this like depression, like that's not the answer. That's not the answer. And I want you to know you can have everything that you want to have, but don't think it's the answer to your life. Don't think an arbitrary purpose that you've given yourself is the answer to your life, because then you think everything else is not in purpose. You think that when you have really hard times or when you're off, what you call off, which is the ego, you can't be off, only the ego can't grab onto a tangible thing. That's what off is, by the way. Do you realize that when you're like, I'm feeling off today? It's like my ego has no direction. But it shouldn't, because the direction is beyond what the ego can understand. So when you're sitting here going, I'm feeling off, it's like, no. Your control is feeling off. Your control is losing control. You're starting to be here anyway, and you're seeing that you're enough here. So you're welcome to have all kinds of callings and purposes and everything else, but don't think they are the reason you're here. The reason you're here is your existence, and it's beyond what your mind will ever understand. Your mind will not understand it. Now, if you start to accept this idea that I'm offering you, that there isn't a specific reason that's small that you think is the big reason, and finally I have a purpose that's in a thing, really part of your purpose is this unfolding and quite a bit of things that you don't understand, then your life will be freer. It'll be easier. You'll be able to move with more joy. You won't be bored anymore because everything's on purpose. You start to go, everything's on purpose, right? You start to really get with the idea that an off moment is on purpose. You going for a walk is on purpose. You just offering help to someone, you ordering a coffee is on purpose. Whatever you're doing is on purpose. You can't get off purpose. And when everything falls off of your egoic purpose, you're still on purpose. I want you to be with that idea. You're on purpose always. When you're feeling really sad, you're on purpose. When you're angry, you're on purpose. When you don't understand what's going on, you're on purpose. This also brings a freedom, because there's quite a bit of assignments we've given ourselves that I'm here to do this. Well, what happens if God has something new for you? And now you thought this is your purpose. But when you undo, this is the answer that I mentally understand, then now you're free, and you're free. And I said to someone something really awesome that I'm very proud of the other day, because it's something that I say a lot, and it's something that really is real. If all ways are fine, what would you do? I want you to start to see all ways are fine. Most people are addicted to making a decision out of not a mistake, right? I want to not make a mistake. I've got to do this thing, but I could go broke. I got to do this thing, but it could be the wrong house to live in. If it could be the wrong relationship, it could be, nope, we don't want to move that way. Because when you start to realize you're on purpose in your existence, you're welcome to do whatever you want. Like, don't hurt anyone. I would recommend that. But the freer you are, the more you wouldn't. It's actually through the confines of everything has to be this way, and then something goes off, that people are actually more likely to cause harm, because things are happening that are out of their control. And that's where people get angry and weird and different. It's in the repression of darkness that all of a sudden you act out and do dark things. But if you allow yourself to go, I'm here now, I'm on purpose, I can't get out of that I'm on purpose, everything's fine, what would I do? You will choose something that empowers you, expands you, and frees you. But maybe that's a purpose, to finally get that you're on purpose. Maybe it's not that I have to get this thing done and I have to start this company and I have to, you can even hear that those all have this kind of energy of, yeah, but Kyle, I have to make money. And it's like, no, 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 no. You're believing that if you have this type of purpose, which is an old idea, that that's the only way to make money. And I'm here to offer, your survival will disappear when you realize that you're on purpose, and you will move into a place of thrival. You will ask yourself, what calls to you in the moment? What would I do now? And that's a different type of what do I do? Not what do I do with this information? I better not do the wrong thing, right? So the big point is, you do not need a reason to be here. Your existence already holds the reason, and it's not going to ever make sense to our tiny minds that really were constructed when we were born, hypnotized until we were 7, and then we're just a bunch of patterns that we're slowly letting go of now. It makes no tangible sense that we're supposed to have this egoic construct of a purpose. Your existence means you're right on purpose. You're here. You can't get out of it. And there's no point that the ego will ever understand of why you're here. But there's a point of being here. But it's not something your ego can shrink into a box. Oh, it's that I'm a painter. Nah, paint. Totally paint if it calls to you to paint. But don't trick yourself into, that's my purpose. And then one day someone steals your paint from you. And then you're like, I lost my purpose. And why do I even need to live? Every single fall apart I've ever had, I got right to the edge of suicide. And then learned that that suicidal part was necessary without the body going. Oh, when I went through the first one, oh my God, I'm supposed to let go of the me that's a famous comedian and thinks that's my purpose. Oh, I feel like falling apart. Oh my God, I'm going through anxiety, and that would kill the only way that I know that I'm loved in my 20s. So I felt suicidal, and then ended up going to a higher consciousness and letting that pattern die. Then I went to new things and then felt suicidal, but then learned that I don't know how it's forming, but a higher consciousness is forming. And I know that that's not me. But what died was false purposes, or the highest purposes I knew before I understood this. But in 2023, we are in a new consciousness and we're in a new frequency. And the new frequency truly is based on one word that is the biggest word I want you to remember. The biggest word. Does anyone have a guess what it is? There's one word that 2023 and beyond is based on. It's one job for you. That's right, Anita. Surrender. Surrender. And I'm not talking about stay in a passive, shitty thing. That's not what I mean. People think surrender means something else. You have a choice of living in a world of control or a world of surrender. And we used to live, before 2012, control was the dominant thing. The small egoic self would create things, would figure things out, would go to a shrink, would do this work. Now the ego cannot get rid of the ego. So when you see thoughts that you don't like, you can't bring in control to them. You have to just sit back and see them. And they're very different, right? When you see feelings you don't like, you can't bring in control to them or judgment to them. You sit with them and understand that you are merging with the true essence of what you are, truly the God you, not the old software program that was just here out of survival to keep yourself from getting hurt when you had parents who were 10 times bigger than you, and you needed to control things then because your survival actually depended on it. You're actually a thriving being. And the time we're in right now is only surrender. This time is about surrender. And you learning still to make the best choices so you don't surrender to an abusive, bad relationship. You don't surrender to a shitty job. You don't surrender to, an addiction. You say to God, would you take this from me? And I'm going to just see what you need to show me. And I'm going to participate with you. And what's not mine can go. And Miracles Normalized, which I can't believe was only 10 days ago because it feels like 10 years ago. And Miracles Normalized, there was a woman there named Jill. who has had an ongoing bunch of sickness. And one of the most amazing revelations that was a huge revelation for me too was that she said, well, the sickness helps me find, we realized, she's like, I'm trying to find the core of what this sickness is. And I realized if that's the case, then she can't let go of the sickness, because she believes that the sickness is the avenue for her to find herself. Now, a lot of people have this where they think, I need to stay in this bad relationship so I can find the aspect of I need to learn a bunch of things. And I just want you to know, you can choose the highest and still learn a bunch of things. A lot of people go, well, I need to stay in the stagnant relationship so I can keep doing the inner work so that I can learn the truth about myself. And that's like saying, I need to keep getting into the mud so I can learn how to get out of mud. And I said, what if you just let go of control of the sickness instead of holding it and sorting through it to find what you are? What if what you are is not in the sickness? What if you will never find yourself in the sickness? And what if it's just surrender? And it was a big concept because it was like, so just let go of it. And you could almost feel, she felt like she was on a plane that's like slowly going to take off the ground. And she doesn't know who she is without working through the illnesses. And weirdly, they've always been there. So if you go, man, I get sick, then I learn from it and I found myself the first time, you can unconsciously keep an addiction and say, I need to keep getting sick without even you saying it, because I don't know who I am if I'm not working through my sickness, my patterns, my problems, my bad relationships, my crappy job. You don't need to hold on to a shitty thing to find yourself. You don't need to keep grabbing on. This is what surrender is. So I was offering her, could you surrender the need to sort through your sickness? And you could feel that she was really identified with, I don't know who I am, without working through things. And it's like, do you think you'll die if you're not working through things? And you could see the final level of control that was ready to go. And I just felt this like plane taking off, and it's on the runway, and that's where it's going up. It's like, oh, I'm flying. I don't know how to not work through patterns, problems, sickness, issues. And we have become addicted to working through problems, which in one level is phenomenal, but in another level, God's also sorting through your problems if you just surrender them. And instead of you egoically looking through the core issues, we let God do it. We let God come in and go, I just, let me take it. You don't have to keep suffering to figure out why you suffer. Did you hear that? You don't have to keep suffering in order to figure out why you suffer. Instead, we just now have the courage to move from surrender and freedom and stop picking up suffering to understand it. Our understander is in the way of your surrender. What you surrender, God's got. There you go. What you surrender, God's got. When you go, I don't know why this problem's coming up for me, surrender it. God's got it. You don't need to search through the problem all day. We are currently starting our 6th year of the Absolutely Everything Pass, and the content is getting deeper and better every single day. We're now at hundreds of hours of content and live events that have just been so powerful. All of our past courses, all of our online 2-day events, everything we've ever done and everything we're ever going to do is all on the Absolutely Everything Pass. We have thousands of hours of footage. We have changed thousands of lives, and we're in the final stages of it ever being for sale for $299 for 1 year of the Absolutely Everything Pass. Very shortly, it's about to go up to $795. And if you're ready to shift so many things in your life, if you're ready to shift your money story, your heart, your relationships, all of your patterns, shift everything about yourself, join us on the Absolutely Everything Pass, get 1 year for $299 and watch as it pays for itself within the first week, because you're going to make so many different decisions from a higher frequency, and you're going to end up not spending as much money on things that don't align with you and move into things that help you, move you to a higher level of health, better relationships, so many different things. This is the last couple weeks of getting the Absolutely Everything Pass forever for $299. And then after that, it'll go up to $795. And then it'll probably go up from there, because we're just getting started. Even though it's the 6th year, we're just getting started on creating a mountain of magic. Join us on the Absolutely Everything Pass while you can for $299.